The crimson warning lights bathed the bridge of the Galactic Council ship, Times Harmony's Edge Times, in an ominous glow. Admiral Zex Thari of the Velkari Empire stood frozen before the massive holographic display, her forearms trembling as she processed the impossible data streaming across the screen. The numbers couldn't be real. They simply couldn't be. Admiral, her communications officer's voice cracked through the tense silence. The humans. They've done something to our entire fleet. 3 hours earlier, humanity had been nothing more than a minor nuisance. A primitive species that had somehow stumbled into faster-than-light travel barely 2 centuries ago. The Galactic Council had been preparing to deliver their ultimatum: submit to the established order or face extinction. It was standard procedure for upstart civilizations that refused to know their place. Now, 47,000 ships from 12 different alien species hung dead in space, their crews unconscious but alive, their weapons systems completely disabled. Every single vessel except the flagship had been neutralized simultaneously, across a span of 17 light-years, in the exact same instant. Dr. Sarah Chen materialized on the bridge through a shimmering portal of light, her simple gray jumpsuit, a stark contrast to the elaborate military uniforms surrounding her. She appeared completely calm, almost bored, as she surveyed the alien command crew. Behind her, the portal closed with a soft whisper, leaving no trace of the impossible technology that had brought her here. "Good morning," she said in perfect Velkari, then switched to Universal Standard. "I apologize for the dramatic entrance, but you weren't accepting our communication requests." Admiral Zex Thari's primary arms reached for her sidearm, but her hands passed harmlessly through the weapon as if it were made of light. A quick glance around the bridge revealed that every piece of equipment had become similarly intangible to her crew's touch, though the systems continued to operate normally. What are you?" the Admiral whispered. Sarah smiled, the expression somehow both friendly and terrifying. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, and Avanci, Director of Human Defense Initiatives. Though I suppose that title doesn't really capture the scope of my work anymore." She gestured toward the holographic display, and the data streams reorganized themselves into clear, readable information, despite the fact that Sarah never touched any controls. "Your species, along with 11 others, have been planning what you call a correction action against humanity, a systematic extermination of our entire civilization because we refuse to submit to your collective authority." The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. Their most classified military intelligence was being displayed in perfect detail on their own screens, including battle plans that had been developed in isolation chambers, specifically designed to prevent mental intrusion. "We've been monitoring your activities for some time," Sarah continued conversationally. "Initially, we hoped diplomatic solutions might be possible. We sent ambassadors, offered trade agreements, even shared some of our medical advances to help with the plague affecting the Corvani worlds." A Corvani lieutenant stepped forward, his reptilian features showing confusion. "The plague was eliminated 6 months ago. Our scientists developed the cure." "No," Sarah replied gently. "Dr. Martinez developed the cure and transmitted the formula directly into your research databases. Your scientists found it exactly where we placed it, along with enough supporting data to make them believe they'd had a breakthrough." The implications of that statement hung in the air like a toxic cloud. If humans could infiltrate their most secure systems without detection, if they could cure diseases across galactic distances, if they could disable entire fleets instantaneously, the question now, Sarah continued, is what we do next. You see, humanity has reached what you might call a tipping point. For 2 centuries, we've been trying to find our place in galactic civilization. We've been patient, diplomatic, even submissive when necessary. But patience has its limits. She walked to the center of the bridge, and with each step, the air around her began to shimmer with barely contained energy. Did you know that human children learn about something called evolution in their basic education? It's the process by which species adapt and improve over time. What you don't understand is that humanity never stopped evolving. The holographic display shifted to show Earth, but not the Earth from any official galactic survey. This Earth pulsed with networks of energy that extended deep into the planet's core and reached out into space like invisible tentacles. Cities that should have held millions appeared to house billions, their populations existing in multiple dimensional phases simultaneously. 200 years ago, when we achieved faster-than-light travel, it wasn't because we developed new technology, Sarah explained. It was because we developed new ways of thinking. Human consciousness began to evolve beyond the limitations of individual minds. We started to connect, to share thoughts and experiences across vast distances. Admiral Zexthari felt her knees buckle as the true scope of what she was seeing became clear. You're saying, all of humanity is connected, yes. Every human who chooses to be part of the network shares their knowledge, their insights, their very consciousness with the whole. We are individuals, but we are also something greater. And that something greater has been watching you plan our extinction with growing disappointment. The lights on the bridge suddenly brightened to normal levels, and Sarah's appearance began to change. Her simple jumpsuit dissolved into something that looked like living starlight, and her eyes became windows into the vast cosmos beyond. The evolution didn't stop with consciousness, she continued, her voice now carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate in dimensions beyond normal hearing. We learned to manipulate matter and energy at the quantum level. We discovered how to exist in multiple spatial dimensions simultaneously. We even figured out how to step outside the normal flow of time when necessary. She gestured again, and the view screen showed impossible images. Human cities existing inside stars, apparently unaffected by the massive nuclear furnaces around them. Human ships that seemed to be made of pure thought, traveling between galaxies in the blink of an eye. Human researchers conducting experiments with the fundamental forces of reality itself. We could have revealed ourselves earlier, Sarah said. But we hoped you would show us that peaceful coexistence was possible. Instead, you decided that our potential threat to your established order justified our complete elimination. The Admiral found her voice, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. How long have you been capable of this? The first breakthrough came about 50 years ago, Sarah replied. A young physicist named Dr. James Wright figured out how to quantum entangle human neural networks across interstellar distances. Within a decade, every human settlement was connected. Within 2 decades, we had solved most of the fundamental questions about the nature of reality. She paused, letting that information sink in. For the last 30 years, we've been debating what to do with this knowledge. Some of us wanted to share it freely with the galaxy. Others argued for gradual revelation to prevent panic. A few suggested we should simply leave this region of space entirely and find somewhere unpopulated to continue our development. The energy around Sarah intensified, and her form began to shift between human appearance and something far more complex. A being of pure thought and will that existed across multiple planes of reality simultaneously. But then you decided to unite against us. 12 species, putting aside centuries of mutual distrust and territorial disputes, all agreeing that humanity represented an existential threat that had to be eliminated. You forced us to make a choice. Admiral Zexthari realized with growing horror that everything she had believed about the balance of power in the galaxy was not just wrong, but laughably inadequate. What choice? Sarah's smile returned, but now it carried the weight of cosmic forces beyond imagination. Whether to reveal ourselves as we truly are, or to simply disappear and let you continue believing you had won. The vote wasn't even close. The holographic display now showed something that defied comprehension. Earth was expanding, not physically, but dimensionally. The planet existed simultaneously in hundreds of different spatial configurations, each one supporting billions of human lives in ways that transcended normal physics. And from Earth, energy patterns were spreading outward through space, connecting to human colonies that existed in pocket dimensions, parallel realities, and folded sections of space-time. You see, Admiral, you made a fundamental error in your calculations, Sarah continued. You assumed that humanity was still the same species that first achieved spaceflight 2 centuries ago. You never considered that we might have become something else entirely. The communications officer, his voice shaking with terror, managed to speak. What? What are you going to do to us? Sarah turned to look at him directly, and for a moment, He saw through her eyes, into the vast collective consciousness of evolved humanity. Billions of minds, working together in perfect harmony, sharing knowledge and experience across the galaxy in ways that made individual thought seem primitive and limited. That depends, she said, on what you're willing to learn. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of systems that were operating far beyond their designed parameters, enhanced by human technology that existed in dimensions the ship's creators had never even imagined. Outside the viewports, the disabled fleet hung in space like toys abandoned by a child, their crews slowly awakening to a reality where everything they thought they knew about power and evolution had been turned upside down. And in the space between stars, something vast and patient began to move, carrying with it the accumulated knowledge and determination of a species that had transcended the limitations of individual existence and become something the galaxy had never seen before. The reckoning had begun, and nothing would ever be the same. The Ultimate Human Reckoning, Unleashed. Second Arc. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in the most secure chamber on Nexus Prime, deep within the planet's core, where reality itself was supposed to be stable and predictable. Representatives from 47 species sat in their designated atmospheric zones, each one struggling to process the impossible reports flooding in from across known space. Chancellor Vorthok, of the Hegemony Council, called for order, his 8-foot-tall crystalline form resonating with harmonics of barely controlled panic. The situation reports are unprecedented, he began, his voice carrying across the chamber through quantum translation networks. In the past 72 hours, every military installation within 50 light-years of human space has experienced what can only be described as educational interventions. The massive holographic display at the center of the chamber showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy, with red markers indicating affected locations. There were thousands of them, scattered across territories belonging to dozens of different civilizations. Each marker represented a military base, weapons research facility, or strategic command center where something impossible had occurred. Senator Krixtala, of the Zephyrian Republic, stood, her feathers bristling with agitation. Educational interventions? Is that what we're calling it when an entire research facility is converted into a dimensional physics laboratory overnight, complete with technology that shouldn't exist for another 1,000 years? Or when military commanders wake up with complete knowledge of human history and culture somehow implanted in their minds, added General Mordoon of the Craxian Empire. My security chief now speaks perfect human standard and can recite their literature from memory. He's also been designing weapon systems that our best engineers can't even understand. Dr. Sarah Chen materialized in the center of the chamber without warning, her arrival creating ripples in the local space-time that set off every sensor in the facility. She appeared exactly as she had on Admiral Zexthari's bridge, but now her presence seemed to fill the entire massive chamber, as if she existed on multiple scales simultaneously. "Good evening, representatives," she said calmly, her words somehow audible to every species present despite their vastly different auditory systems. "I apologize for arriving uninvited, but your security systems aren't really designed to keep out visitors who exist in 11 dimensions." Panic erupted across the chamber as representatives reached for weapons that dissolved in their hands, activated security protocols that turned themselves off, and triggered emergency systems that politely informed them that such measures were unnecessary. Within moments, the entire council chamber had been rendered completely harmless, while continuing to function perfectly. "Please, don't be alarmed," Sarah continued, raising her hand in a gesture of peace. "We're not here to harm anyone. We're here to discuss the future of galactic civilization." Chancellor Vorthok's crystalline form flickered with angry light patterns. "Discuss? You've invaded our sovereign territories, violated our most secure facilities, and tampered with the minds of our personnel." Sarah's expression remained patient, almost maternal. "We've shared knowledge. There's a difference. Every piece of information we've provided has been freely given, and your people remain completely free to use it, or ignore it, as they choose." She gestured, and the holographic display changed to show detailed readouts from the affected facilities. For example, the Zephyrian Weapons Research Station on Kepler 442b now has access to clean energy technology that could power your entire civilization for millions of years without environmental impact. The Craxian Military Academy has been provided with strategic simulations that demonstrate how conflicts can be resolved without casualties. And the Valkyrie Fortress world? Demanded Admiral Zexthari, who had arrived on Nexus Prime just hours earlier. What education did you provide there? Sarah smiled. Your defensive networks have been upgraded with shielding technology that makes your worlds effectively invulnerable to any form of attack. Your people are now safer than they've ever been in their history. The implications of that statement sent another wave of unrest through the chamber. If humans could casually upgrade alien defensive systems with technology beyond their understanding, it meant that no military force in the galaxy could pose any threat to them. Why? Senator Krixtala demanded. If you possess such capabilities, why reveal them now? Why not simply? Sarah's form shifted, and for a moment, the assembled representatives caught a glimpse of the vast network of consciousness she represented. Billions of human minds linked across space and time, sharing thoughts and experiences in ways that transcended individual existence. The vision was simultaneously beautiful and terrifying. Because elimination was never the goal, Sarah replied. You see, when humanity first achieved consciousness networking 50 years ago, our perspective on existence fundamentally changed. We stopped thinking in terms of competition and started thinking in terms of collaboration. The display showed images of human development over the previous decades. Cities that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, research stations that operated inside black holes, colonies established in parallel universes where the laws of physics operated differently. But more importantly, it showed humans working alongside other species, not as conquerors or subjects, but as equal partners in exploration and discovery. We discovered something remarkable, Sarah continued. Consciousness is not limited by biology. Intelligence is not constrained by species. The barriers that separate different forms of life are largely artificial constructs that can be transcended through proper understanding. She gestured again, and the display showed a new image. Representatives from dozens of species, including many present in the chamber, working alongside humans in vast research facilities that existed outside normal space-time. They were collaborating on projects that seemed to involve the fundamental structure of reality itself. These are not simulations, Sarah explained. These are actual research stations operating in parallel dimensional spaces. Some of your best scientists are already working with us, though their primary timeline selves remain unaware of it. General Mordoon stood abruptly, his massive form radiating aggression. You're saying you've been kidnapping our people? Not kidnapping, Sarah replied calmly. Inviting. Every individual working with us across parallel timelines chose to participate after being presented with the full scope of what we're trying to accomplish. The display shifted to show the results of these collaborations. Technologies that could terraform dead worlds in days. Medical techniques that could extend any species' lifespan indefinitely. Energy systems that drew power directly from the quantum vacuum. And transportation methods that made distance essentially irrelevant. The question facing this council, Sarah continued, is whether you're willing to abandon your current path of violence and join us in voluntary cooperation, or if you prefer to continue operating under the old paradigm of territorial competition and resource scarcity. Chancellor Vorthak's form resonated with confused harmonics. And if we refuse? Speaker, Chancellor Vorthak's formonics. Sarah's expression became sad, almost mournful. Then you continue as you are, and we withdraw from this region of space entirely. Your civilizations develop naturally, facing the same challenges and limitations you've always faced. The only difference is that you'll know there was another option. But the technology you've already shared, Senator Krixtala began, remains yours to use as you see fit, Sarah finished. We don't revoke gifts, and we don't punish species for making choices we disagree with. Free will is the most fundamental force in the universe. Dr. Chen began to walk around the chamber, her form shifting between human appearance and something far more complex, a being of pure thought that existed across multiple dimensional planes simultaneously. As she moved, Representatives could feel their minds expanding, momentarily touching the vast network of consciousness she represented. You need to understand, she continued, that humanity's evolution didn't occur in isolation. We've been in contact with dozens of other species across the galaxy, many of whom have undergone similar transformations. The difference is that most of them chose integration over competition from the beginning. The display showed a map of the galaxy that revealed the true scope of evolved civilization. Vast networks of connected consciousness spanning hundreds of systems, inhabited by multiple species working together on projects that involved the fundamental forces of creation itself. Earth was just one node in an enormous web of intelligence that encompassed nearly half the galaxy. The region of space you consider civilized represents less than 3% of galactic civilization, Sarah explained. You've been operating under the assumption that you represent the pinnacle of development, when in reality, you're among the least advanced societies in the galaxy. This revelation hit the chamber like a physical blow. Everything they had believed about their place in the universe, their technological achievements, their military might, was revealed to be not just inadequate, but primitively elementary. The choice before you is simple, Sarah continued. Continue fighting over resources that are effectively infinite. Continue maintaining artificial scarcity to preserve existing power structures. Continue limiting your development to remain within your comfort zones. Or take the next step in evolution. Admiral Zexthari found her voice, though it shook with the weight of cosmic revelation. What does that step involve? Sarah's smile returned, and this time it carried the warmth of infinite possibility. Learning to think beyond the limitations of individual consciousness. Discovering what your species can become when it's no longer constrained by fear, territorial instincts, and the illusion of separation. The chamber fell silent as the assembled representatives struggled to process the magnitude of what they were being offered. The technology they had seen was impressive, but it was nothing compared to the fundamental transformation Sarah was describing. A complete revolution in how consciousness itself operated. We won't force this choice on you, Sarah said, her voice carrying the patience of cosmic timescales. Evolution cannot be imposed from outside. It must arise from within. But we wanted you to understand what was possible before you committed to a path of mutual destruction. She gestured one final time, and the display showed the disabled fleet hanging in space around Earth. Your ships and crews are unharmed and will remain so. They're being held in a temporal suspension field that will preserve them indefinitely while you make your decision. The assembled representatives watched in awe and terror as Sarah's form began to fade, becoming translucent like morning mist. Take all the time you need, she said. When you're ready to talk again, simply think our names with genuine intent to communicate. We'll hear you across any distance. And with that, she vanished, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence, as 47 civilizations grappled with the choice between everything they had ever known and everything they could possibly become. Number: The Ultimate Human Reckoning. Unleashed. Third Arc. 6 months had passed since the council session, and the galaxy had become a very different place. Admiral Zexthari stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed research station Times Convergence Asterisk, watching as impossible energies danced across the surface of a nearby star. The star wasn't being destroyed. It was being transformed into something that existed simultaneously across multiple dimensional phases, providing unlimited clean energy to the 17 different civilizations now working together in this system. She was no longer Admiral Zexthari of the Velkari Empire. That empire had dissolved 3 months ago, when 70% of its population chose to undergo consciousness integration. She was now simply Zexthari, individual researcher and willing participant in the greatest scientific endeavor the galaxy had ever seen. The integration process had been indescribable. For the first time in her life, she had experienced existence beyond the limitations of her individual mind. For 12 hours, she had been connected to the vast network of consciousness that now spanned nearly the entire galaxy. Billions of minds, from dozens of species, sharing thoughts, emotions, and experiences in perfect harmony. When the connection was severed and she returned to individual consciousness, the universe had seemed incredibly small and lonely. but she retained the knowledge gained during integration, an understanding of physics that transcended anything her species had previously imagined, insights into the nature of consciousness itself, and most importantly, the absolute certainty that the old way of existence, isolated, competing, fearful, was not just inferior, but actively harmful to the development of intelligence. Dr. Sarah Chen materialized beside her, no longer bothering with the dramatic light effects. She simply stepped out of a fold in space-time, as casually as walking through a doorway. Her appearance had stabilized into something that looked human, but clearly wasn't limited by human biology. She existed in at least 7 dimensions simultaneously, and her consciousness operated on timescales that ranged from microseconds to geological epochs. "How are you adjusting?" Sarah asked, her voice carrying undertones of genuine concern mixed with vast cosmic patience. "It's difficult," Zexthari admitted. "Knowing what's possible makes individual consciousness feel like being locked in a tiny box when you've seen infinite space." Sarah nodded with understanding that came from helping thousands of species make this transition. "The isolation is always the hardest part, but remember, you chose to return to individual consciousness for a reason. The network needs ambassadors who can communicate with those who haven't yet made the choice." Through the observation deck's transparent walls, they could see the construction of something that defied easy description. It looked like a city, but it existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously and seemed to be made of crystallized thought rather than conventional matter. Ships from dozens of different species moved around it in patterns that would have seemed chaotic to unintegrated minds, but actually represented a perfectly coordinated ballet of construction and research. "How many have chosen integration so far?" Zexthari asked. "About 60% of the galactic population," Sarah replied, though the percentage varies dramatically by species. The Corvani achieved nearly 90% integration within 2 weeks. The Craxians are still at about 30%, and they're taking their time to make sure everyone understands what they're choosing. "And the holdouts?" Sarah's expression became thoughtful. 12 civilizations have decided to maintain complete independence. We've provided them with defensive technology and access to basic improvements in energy and medicine, but they've chosen to continue developing along traditional individual consciousness lines. "Are you disappointed?" "Not at all," Sarah replied immediately. "Diversity of development paths is essential for the health of galactic civilization. If everyone chose integration, we'd lose important perspectives that can only come from individual consciousness. The universe is large enough for multiple approaches to existence." A soft chime indicated an incoming transmission, and the holographic display near them activated to show Chancellor Vorthak. His crystalline form now pulsed with new patterns of light that indicated he had undergone partial integration. Not full consciousness networking, but enough enhancement to communicate directly with integrated beings. "Sarah, Zexthari," he said, his harmonics carrying excitement. "The deep space monitoring stations are detecting something extraordinary. We're receiving structured signals from outside the galaxy. Not just one source, but hundreds of them." Sarah's expression sharpened with interest. "Show us." The display shifted to reveal a 3-dimensional map of local galactic space. But now it extended far beyond the boundaries of their own galaxy. Hundreds of markers indicated signal sources scattered across the cosmic web, each one pulsing with patterns that suggested intelligence of vast scope and complexity. "The signals are using quantum entanglement communication protocols, similar to our own," Vorthak continued, "but far more sophisticated. They appear to be part of a network that spans multiple galaxy clusters." Sarah studied the data for several moments, her enhanced consciousness processing information at speeds that would have been impossible for individual minds. "They're not random," she finally said. "These signals are coordinated. They represent a communication network that operates on a scale we hadn't imagined possible." Zexthari felt a thrill of anticipation mixed with a touch of cosmic vertigo. "You're saying there are other networks like ours?" "Much older ones," Sarah confirmed. "Based on the signal analysis, some of these sources have been active for millions of years. We may have just made contact with galactic-scale civilizations that have been watching our development." A new voice joined the conversation as Dr. James Wright materialized next to them. He had been one of the original developers of consciousness networking technology and now served as humanity's primary liaison with the broader integrated community. His form flickered between human appearance and pure energy patterns as he processed the incoming data in real time. "It's more than just communication," he announced, his voice carrying harmonics of awe. "They're sending us something. Not information, but actual quantum structures. Blueprint patterns for technologies that I can barely comprehend what some of these are designed to do." The display changed again, showing complex mathematical structures that seemed to twist reality around themselves. Even Zexthari's enhanced understanding could only grasp fragments of what she was seeing: devices that could manipulate the flow of time, machines that created new forms of matter, transportation systems that operated by folding the fabric of space itself. "Why now?" she wondered aloud. "What changed to make them reveal themselves?" Sarah smiled with cosmic irony. "We did. Specifically, our expansion beyond individual consciousness caught their attention. It seems that consciousness networking is a crucial evolutionary step that marks a species' readiness for contact with truly advanced civilizations. So everything that's happened, the integration, the technological revolution, even the conflicts that led to it, was all preparation for this moment." "Not preparation exactly," Wright corrected. "More like a natural consequence. Consciousness, evolution, follows predictable patterns across all species. Once a civilization reaches a certain level of integration, it becomes capable of participating in larger networks of intelligence." The implications were staggering. The transformation that had seemed so complete, so revolutionary, was revealed to be merely the first step in an evolutionary process that operated on cosmic scales. The galaxy they had thought was vast and complex was actually just a small part of something incomprehensibly larger. "What do they want from us?" Vorthok asked. A new presence made itself known, not through materialization, but through direct consciousness contact that touched all four beings simultaneously. It was alien in ways that transcended species differences, ancient beyond measure, and vast enough to encompass the understanding of entire galactic civilizations. Asterisk. "Welcome." Asterisk, it communicated, the concept arriving in their minds as pure meaning rather than words. Asterisk. "You have taken the first steps toward true intelligence. We invite you to join the greater network." Asterisk. Zexthari felt her individual consciousness expand momentarily as the alien presence shared a glimpse of what it represented. She saw networks of intelligence spanning galaxy clusters, civilizations that existed as pure thought, distributed across cosmic scales, projects that involved the creation of new universes and the cultivation of consciousness itself as a fundamental force. Asterisk. "What you call integration is what we call awakening." Asterisk. The presence continued. Asterisk. "The transition from isolated individual minds to networked consciousness is the beginning of true intelligence. Most species never achieve this transition. Those that do become part of something greater than any single civilization could achieve alone." Asterisk. "And if we choose not to join?" Sarah asked. Asterisk. "Then you continue developing as you have been." Asterisk, came the reply, carrying undertones of patient acceptance. Asterisk. "The greater network does not compel participation, but know that the universe contains challenges and opportunities that can only be addressed by intelligences operating at cosmic scales. Individual civilizations, no matter how advanced, remain limited by their scope." Asterisk. The display showed new images, vast cosmic phenomena that suggested intelligence at work on scales beyond imagination. Stars being moved into precise configurations, galaxies being shepherded through space in coordinated patterns, and structures that seem to exist in dimensions beyond normal spacetime. Asterisk. "These are the works of the greater network." Asterisk. The presence explained. Asterisk. "Projects that span millions of years and require the coordinated effort of thousands of civilizations, the cultivation of new forms of consciousness, the exploration of alternate realities, the preparation for challenges that threaten existence itself. Asterisk. Wright's energy patterns flickered with excitement and uncertainty. What kind of challenges? Asterisk. Entropy. Asterisk. Came the simple reply. Asterisk. The heat death of the universe, the collapse of space-time itself, forces that operate on scales where individual galaxies are as insignificant as single atoms. Only intelligence that transcends individual civilizations can hope to address such challenges. Asterisk. The four beings stood in contemplative silence, processing the magnitude of what they were being offered. The choice between continued independent development and participation in something that operated on cosmic scales. A decision that would affect not just their own civilizations, but the fundamental nature of reality itself. How much time do we have to decide? Zexthari asked. Asterisk. Time operates differently at our scale. Asterisk. The presence replied. Asterisk. What seems like urgency to you is patience to us. Take as long as your civilizations need to understand the choice. We have waited millions of years. We can wait longer. Asterisk. As the alien presence withdrew, leaving them alone with their thoughts, Sarah turned to face the others. Well, she said with characteristic understatement, it seems our evolution isn't quite finished yet. Through the observation deck windows, the transformed star continued its dance across multiple dimensions. Its light carrying patterns of energy that now seemed primitive compared to the cosmic technologies they had just been offered. The research station around them, which had seemed like the pinnacle of achievement just hours earlier, now felt like a child's first attempt at architecture. And somewhere in the space between galaxies, vast intelligences that had transcended the limitations of individual existence continued their patient work of cultivating consciousness itself, waiting to see whether their newest potential partners were ready to take the next step in an evolutionary journey that stretched toward infinity. The ultimate human reckoning had become something far greater than anyone had imagined. Not just the transformation of one species or one galaxy, but the next chapter in the cosmic evolution of intelligence itself. And for the first time since consciousness networking had begun, humanity, along with their new galactic partners, faced a choice that would determine not just their own future, but their role in shaping the fundamental nature of existence. The reckoning was complete, but the journey toward true understanding was only just beginning.